need to come while we were still going through our testing period, while we were in our wilderness. We were kind of ugly then. The messages weren't so encouraging. Why? Because I was still struggling myself. You would have come and you'd been like, man, this is an awfully sad kind of pastor. Are there any encouraging words going to come forth? Why? Because we were still in our process. But after the Lord brings you out, and you come out, it's just like his word says, pure gold. It's not the point that it's gold, it's that it's pure. The reason why metals of all type, whether it's gold or silver or copper, whatever it is, the reason why it's put in the fire is to get the impurities out, so that it is a metal of integrity. You know what integrity means? It means it's the same on the inside as it is on the outside. So that people know when they see you on the surface that that's the same thing that's really there all the way through. So as you're going through your fire process, and believe me, it never stops. We had an elder in our church that worked in one of those type of places that handled different kinds of metal, and he told us that they would take it, whatever the metal was, and they melt it down, and the impurities would come up to the top, and they skim it off. He said, but then they would take that, and then they pour it into a vat, huge gigantic vats that was even hotter than the first. Why? Because there's still some impurities in there that didn't come up on the first heat. So just when you feel like, thank you, Lord, I'm out of this heat, then he puts you into something hotter. Why? So that stuff that you really didn't even know was there can now come up to the surface. I believe that the first bit of the furnace that the Lord allows us to go through is to bring up that stuff and really get that stuff that we know of. You know how there are things about ourselves we know of. We know about that stuff. The second one that we go through gets rid of some of the stuff that other people, they know about that about you, but you just don't know that about you. Other people can see it. You just can't see it. And then that comes up and gets skimmed off. Then the Lord allows you to go through a third one. This elder told us that they take metals through 3 times. And said the third one that comes up, he said it's just like a thin little layer, sort of like what you see with milk. If you've ever seen milk, if it starts to heat up, it has this little layer skim across that you can skim across the top. He said it's like that. And I believe those are those things that you don't know about yourself. Other people don't know it, and you don't even know it either. Psychiatrists and psychologists call this your blind spot. There are things that you know about yourself. Everybody knows it, you know it. But then there are things that other people can see that you can't see. And then there's a third one. Nobody else can see it. You don't even know it about yourself either. And why? Because God is getting pure gold. Pure gold. Now, what helps us through that process is to do what He's had us doing today. We keep worshiping Him. We stay in His presence. Keep our focus and our attention upon Him, not even on the process. You don't even focus on the process. If you focus on the process, you get distracted by what's going on, because it seems like God's being unfair. It seems like God's being mean. You start looking at people. You start looking at circumstance. You start looking at your finances. You start looking at the timing of your life. Don't it always feel like I'm running out of time? I'm always running. I got to hurry up. I got to get things done. So God's getting at all of that. So He takes us through those 3 levels of heat so that He can get at the stuff. Finally, ultimately, to those things that are inside of us that we don't even know ourselves. Those are those incidents and things that happen that sometimes we've even buried them in the past. We were praying about that earlier today. People with those deep, dark secrets, things that have happened inside of them, they don't even know how it's affected them. They don't even know. Do you know that you and I have made some vows? We've made some promises about things that we're never, ever going to let happen to us. You know, you may not even be conscious of it. Happened when you was in kindergarten or the first grade, and all the kids laughed at you about something. So you made this little secret vow about how one day you will make sure that you never ever get laughed at again about that, about the clothes that you were wearing, about those kind of shoes, about how your hair was. So inside of us, that's what I said, there are things that God allows us to go through to get at that stuff so that we can be purified. Some of the things that are impure, and really all of them, they're toxic. They affect the way we see God and the way we see ourselves. So that even when God gives his promises and he tells us plainly what he's going to do, do you know sometimes our lack of faith is because of what we believe about ourselves? I'm not worthy. That little phrase, as noble as it sounds, is actually a dangerous phrase. I'm not worthy. Yes, you are. Not in a pride and arrogance standpoint. But you know what our worth was? It was the cross. So don't ever tell God, I'm not worth you blessing me. You may often say, I don't know why you do it. I don't understand why you love me. But don't tell God I'm not worth it. Because yes, you are worth it. Because he said so. Why am I saying this? So that when he promises, when you read his word and he talks about our hope and a future for us and what we're expecting him to do in our lives, we can receive this from his point of view. Just think about all the parents in the room especially. Think about all the things that you would do for your children and even tried to do for your children. Why? Just because you loved them. Just because you loved them. We can't even fathom the love of God. We can't even fathom his love. And yet he says, you're worth it, son, you're worth it, daughter. Do you understand that God has no regrets about the cross? He's not ever saying it wasn't worth it for me to do this for my people, for my children. He never has 1 second of regret